The set Perfect start. So, as the recording started, the outline of the session will be I will start with the questions and then I will address the candidates and will ask them to respond within the specific time frame. At the same time, I will ask everyone, both the participants who will be leaving the questions and everyone around, to be respectful and respect everyone's boundaries. So, let's make sure that we prioritize welfare and well being during this discussion. And with that being said, I will start with the first question, which is about general background and motivation of our GB candidates. And everyone will have around 2 minutes to respond to this question. So could you each please share a little bit about your journey within European Youth Parliament and what really motivated you to run for the GB this term? Let's start maybe with Vedat for now.
Yeah, sure. Can you all hear me? Perfect. So hi everyone. I'm Vedat. I'm 25 years old. I'm from Bosnia and Herzegovina, but I've been living and studying and working in Graz in Austria for the past around 5 years. I've been in EYP for the past 8 years. I also started in EYP Bosnia and Herzegovina, where my journey has also been taking me the most. Um, I've served as the president of Bosnia and Herzegovina for the past 2 years. And with that, I've also quite traveled to quite a lot of different NCs, mostly in the capacity as a person active in the academic team. So I guess a lot of you have seen me as president of sessions. But lately, I've kind of cooled down from presiding sessions and focused more on international governance. Through that, again, presided the NC for 2 years, attended five BNC meetings. And as for the motivation and my aspirations for the GB, as my time in EYP Bosnia and Herzegovina is coming to an end, I think it's time to bring in new generations. I think it's important to have a refreshment as my time in Bosnia and Herzegovina is coming to an end. Um, I think I still don't feel like I gave back to the network everything that it has given me. So in that context, I feel like my skills and my knowledge can be greatly used and useful to the network. So yeah, I think that was around 2 minutes. So yeah, thank you very much.
Absolutely perfect timing. Thank you, Vedat. Moving on to Jean.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Jeanne. I'm 23 years old. I'm currently studying political science in Strasbourg, home of the European Parliament, so it's really, really cool to be there. I've started my YP journey in 2018, and quickly I was involved in my regional committee in YP France because we have the chance to have regional bodies and entities. So I served as a board member then I was a president, and then later worked as capacity of NC board member, working on international relations, human resources. And last year, I got a chance to be the vice president of EYP France, managing network duties. So mostly like human resources and international relations and the link we can make between the local aspects of EYP and the international ones. During that time, I also got the chance to be the BNC representative for EYP France during 4 consecutive BNC meetings. And I think that my main motivation to run for the GB was brought by the fact that I really wanted to bring my ideas and values that I had the chance to develop in my own national committee and just drive forward the work that I've been doing around knowledge sharing and capacity building and all. So yes, that will be it for me. I was supposed to put a timer and I forgot, so I don't know how long it lasted. Okay.
Perfect timing. So great. Moving to Igor.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I think you can hear me, right? Good. Great. So first and foremost, thank you, Lira, and thank you, Henning, for being here, for doing your part in facilitating this exchange. I indeed hope it will be constructive, fruitful, productive, because that's essentially what I think all of us want to bring and what the network expects of us. And I've been here since very early 2019. I've been an NC board member since sometime into 2021. And for the past year and this year, I've been the NC president of EYP Croatia. That meant that I was at many BNC meetings. Some have spoken about how many times they've been there. I've been 7. But what any one of those and all of those experiences teach me is that there's a lot of not just humility, but a lot of power in what we do in terms of having democracy also in how we run our organization. And this is at the very core of what I believe and what I always try to achieve. Democracy, transparency, accountability, all of these things are fundamental principles to me as a person and in my work. I approach this campaign, and if I'm lucky enough to be elected, I will approach the work in that very same way. This is what I wanted to do when I was leading, and I continue to for a month and a half EYP Croatia. And besides that, it's not much more than that. It's these deep beliefs that motivate me, and this is who I am, as a person. Other than that, if you want me to choose between cats or dogs, I think I'd choose dogs. I also happen to study abroad. Some have spoken study outside of their home country. I do as well. In Maastricht, the Netherlands, the birthplace of the European Union. And one very final note from me, in case you see me looking down, I have a pen and I have a paper, so I'm noting things down. Don't think it's because I'm not listening. Indeed, I am listening, and I'm so eager to listen to different candidates, different questions, because I always welcome questions, because they always bring the necessary democratic and accountability elements. That's more or less it from me. Thank you very much. And yeah, let's go.
Thank you very much, Ivor. And Daniel?
Thank you, Lira, and thank you to all the candidates who went before. I'm Daniel Buna. I'm originally from Tirana, Albania, and part of EYP Albania, but I'm currently based in London. I work as a trainee lawyer. I'm currently dabbling in a bit of property law and then immigration, which are quite opposite to each other, but they're both things I quite like. I've been engaged in the governance of my national committee for the last 4 years. I started as a PR board member, moved on to VP for International Relations, president, and then after completing my term as president, I continued as part of the auditing committee. This experience especially has been very rewarding, but also quite challenging. Part of a small NC, I would say, in the network, which definitely has its great things, but also its difficulties. My candidacy is focused on 2 main goals, which are both expanding outreach and inclusivity, but as well as building partnerships, be that with one of my projects, which I've said is about national parliaments, but also with other external bodies who can help us maximize our impact and grow as a network. And just to conclude that, as a person, I'm committed to working really hard on the governing body if elected, and honestly just being an ear to the ground and listening openly and representing all of your interests. Thanks.
Thank you very much to all 4 of our candidates. Now let's move to the next question, which is already going a little bit into the specifics of the key goals and objectives that you have as GB candidates and in the future maybe GB members. So what are your primary goals and objectives? And for that, we'll have 3 minutes per person. And let's start with Jean.
You said me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry, I was not sure. Okay, I think my main ideas and focus if I get elected as a GB member and the things that I wrote down in my manifesto are really around the strategical aspects of EYP. And I think that the way to make the network better is to implement in different ways our strategy, and we're focusing on that. So I have 4 points that I would like to talk about, which are around financial resilience of the network. We've seen that some events were not as successful as we wanted to be, especially flagship events in the recent years. We've seen also that like some national committees are struggling sometimes with their finance, and I think that a way to really make the network better and to actually achieve our mission is to work on that, because it's something that needs to be tackled. Something also that I think is really important is around the carbon footprint of EYP, because it's a subject that we've raised a lot, and this is one of the goals we are turning forward, which I'm really happy about, and I would like to really empathize on that thing with the climate action plan and the following outcome that it would take. It also goes for inclusion, something that Daniel talked about a bit before, because we see a lot of things happening in the network regarding inclusion outreach of different people with different social economic backgrounds. There are a lot of different initiatives, but today I don't think there is a more systematic way of reviewing all of this. So I think it will be very important on the international governance level to actually take this question into a key matter to bear forward a strategy. I believe that the way to do that is to work all together to make things happening. So it really goes by strengthening the links between the international governance body and the national committees first, to make sure that knowledge are shared, passed on, that we are not gatekeeping good things that could be beneficial for all. This goes with the reform of the regional cluster that we have. I think we will talk a lot about this, that it was a very hot topic on Discord. And it also goes as transparency. And I think that my last point will be to have the GB as a supportive force in a way that even though the GB cannot dictate whatever the national committees can do, if I get elected as a GB member, I want to be there to make sure that every national committees can reach out on different matters and can be helped. And yes, I think that would be mostly it for me. I still haven't tied myself, even though I wanted to. But whatever.
Thank you very much, Jan. Okay, let's move to Vedat.
Yeah, perfect. So as for the key goals and objectives, in my manifesto, I kind of set three objectives or three pillars, but I think I expanded on that quite well in Discord. So first of all, thank you to everyone who asked amazing questions in Discord. It was a very good, I mean, it was and still is a very good opportunity to elaborate on the visions, to elaborate on the key points, and to maybe tackle some things that we couldn't tackle in the manifestos because they were quite limited in the length. So the three pillars, I would start off with the transparency of the governing body, since this is something that's already been mentioned. To a lot of members, okay, maybe at the BNC a bit less, but to a lot of members, and this is a question that was already discussed today, is GB is kind of a black box. They don't know what it is. Some of it stems from the fact that maybe they're not aware of where to find the information, etc., etc. But I think it also stems from the fact that the GB is not out there enough. What I would specifically and personally push for is that the GB is more transparent in its work by publishing the minutes as soon as the meeting is done, not only sending it to the BNC list, but also uploading it to the members platform as soon as the minutes are finalized. Also, something that can be piloted doesn't mean it has to succeed. It can fail. Is a network-wide email with the minutes that are sent, and then we can just see what the feedback is. Again, something discussed is we shouldn't be afraid to kind of test new waters, to try new things out, and then if they fail, then we have feedback. We know that it didn't work, and that's fine. The second pillar of my vision is the safe core team, and just generally safety in the network. Even though I personally would probably not want to take on the portfolio of the international safe person, I personally still think that safety is one of the key things in our network, and I think it's one of the key issues that our network faces from day to day. That's why through my previous BNCs, mostly together with Ivor, I've worked through pushing several policy proposals that have the common goal of increasing safety in our network. I'm glad to see them in effect. And I think this can further be pushed forward. This can be done through policy proposals. This could be done through internal GB reforms in the context of how the Safe Core team works, etc., etc. So I think there still is quite a lot of work to be done here. And thirdly, just shortly, it's very straightforward. It's international sessions. I think that ISs lately have been lacking, and they weren't up to standards to what a flagship event of an organization should be. And in this context, I think that we should work together with the NOCs for ISs to not be something scary, for ISs to not be something of a black box, but rather something that would encourage people to come to the events, would encourage people to organize these events. And at the end of the day, we're all on the same team. We're all working for the network. And the GB should work together with the NOCs and the whole network in ensuring that each and every IS delivers a good quality and makes amazing memories for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Now moving to Daniel.
Thank you. Touching a bit on what I've said before and what I've been happy to outline on Discord as well. My primary goals and objectives when it comes to a term in the GB would be to firstly build partnerships that would help us expand outreach and inclusivity, and be that through building partnerships that would directly help increase access for young people from underrepresented regions and backgrounds which are not as advantaged to be able to travel all across Europe to attend events. So be that through travel grants and local project opportunities, I think that's something I would really like to have a look at if elected to the governing body. I think enhancing welfare and support, as Vedat said, I think it's a really big portfolio taking on welfare, but I think it's honestly the most important thing when it comes to making sure that all the participants in all EYP settings, also in international governance, feel safe to contribute and to carry on doing what they love doing while not being in any danger, both mentally and physically, to do so. And I think when it comes to international sessions, something I've touched upon is I think international sessions need to be rethought in the way that they need to be built in such a method that helps the NCs grow, the NOCs grow, and not be something which is a draining exercise and something which leaves generations of EYPers with lacking resources when it comes in the following years after an IS. And lastly, I want to create sort of a very, very open space when it comes to proposals to the GB. And I've touched a bit on an active proposal platforms where members and national committees alike could be able to propose projects or any measures that they wish the governing body would take, which could then warrant a mandatory response by the governing body on how they're implementing it or why they would not be suitable to implement. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Igor, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Lira, and thank you to those of you who have joined by this point now. Also, for the record, for those of you who just joined, if I'm looking down, I'm just writing stuff down because I really want to be able to take all of the information. So in terms of what I want to do, I'm a firm believer that when it comes to talking the talk, that sounds nice and that is good, but we should also walk the walk. What does walking the walk mean? For me, walking the walk means that we build back better as a network, that we focus on what matters the most. To me, and to a lot of people that I talked with, that means working from within, focusing on improving our network as is so that we can be more adaptable to the times and circumstances we are in. As we see, they change on a monthly basis by now. In terms of the big pillars, if you want, I have 5 in my manifesto. Number 1 is the governing body itself. I believe that if someone is to improve something, they should first look within. And the governing body, if it is to lead that change, it is to do some reform from that within. That means a more clear idea about portfolios and different tasks and distributions there so that they are more contactable. But it also means that, for example, there could be more transparency as to the positions that each governing body member takes. There are a lot of different ideas that fall under this pillar, but in the interest of time, let me go to the other one. If you think of the governing body as the co-pilots of an EYP plane, then NCs, national committees, especially their boards, are the engines. And I think that there has been a bit of all over the place kind of link that shouldn't be all over the place. I firmly believe that we should talk more to each other, all of us. But this also is key between governing body members and NC board members. As an NC board member, I get it. I get the other side. And I want to help NC boards. I want to be very NC friendly in that sense and talk with them more. And I think there are many avenues to do so, many avenues for the whole network to do so. Third of all, when it comes to members themselves, the very fuel of our network, if you're following my EYP plane reference, then I firmly believe that more town halls, and even what I call Ask the GB Q&A system that I guess I will be able to further explain at some other point in time would be helpful. But it also means that we get more exposure, but going more places and trying to talk to people more and more. Because I remember I was at an IS. There was a governing body member there as a delegate. This was before COVID, 2019, Hamburg. So shout out goes to UIP Germany there as the NOC. And a governing body member actually talked to me as a delegate. So I never really felt like there was a barrier between me and the governing body. And I don't want anyone to feel that way. And when it comes to these ISs, indeed, there is a lot that has been done. There is a lot to do. And I think it's also a matter of how we communicate and what do we communicate before the event and after the event. One big thing for me there is issuing reports. And fifth of all, in terms of, if you still follow my UAP plane reference, I really want us to fly all over the place, obviously metaphorically, because of sustainability, but I really do want that we avoid a lot of trouble when it comes to, for example, governing body statements. We understand how polarizing and how partisan they can be at times. That is something I want to avoid in terms of our external communications. So these are the 5 main things that I focus my entire instruction, my entire manifesto and campaign on. That's it, I guess. Thank you very much for listening to me for 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Ivo. Perfect. I think your response is a good start for the next question that I have for all 4 of you, which is about transparency and approachability of the governing body. And here I will ask all of you to take around 1.5 minutes. As the transparency and approachability of the GB has been the reoccurring theme that was present in all 4 of your manifestos, and we already brought it up a few times, could you briefly share maybe one concrete action or overall strategy that you would like to prioritize for the GB to be more transparent and approachable for both NCs and the members? Let's start this time with Vedat again.
Yeah, sure. So not to repeat the things that I already previously said, I'll just build upon the idea that I already discussed. So apart from sending out minutes, maybe testing out a pilot project of sending it network wide, something else that we could do, even though the social media calendar is quite busy. I think still, again, piloting, maybe testing out if we can have the GB just maybe live stream from Berlin, if the meeting is in Berlin, not directly the meeting, but just maybe a Q&A or something like that, or if we could have stories where people could ask questions, etc., etc. Also, Discord communication, should we stick to Discord, although that hasn't been maybe working to its best extent, and Discord, quite a lot of people are missing on Discord, but I still think it's the step in the right direction. We can test out a lot of new things. People want transparency, and people want meeting reports, and people want approachability. And in that context, we can test out all methods of transparency. We can test out all methods of approachability, and then we can see what works. We can see what sticks. We can see the feedback from the members. We can see the feedback from NC boards. And at the end of the day, there's nothing against submitting a topic of debate to the next BNC in the name of the GB in order to understand what the network wants in transparency. There was already a TOD proposed by me and Ivor at the BNC 24-1 about the transparency of the GB. But I believe that if it directly comes from the GB, and if we really try to maybe streamline it a bit more and really try to understand the depth to which people want to see the transparency, or how detailed they want the meeting reports to be, etc., etc., in that way we can basically just gather the input of the whole network and then apply those solutions in real time. Yeah.
Thank you, Vedat. Moving to Daniel.
Thanks, Lira. I think I've already spoiled it, but I can build on it and kind of detail what I was trying to propose, which was an active and interactive, would be the better word, proposal platform, where any member of EYP, any national committee, any group of members can submit a proposal or a project idea, which is not just sent to the GB directly, but it's on a public forum. And which would also give the chance for other members and other NCs to give feedback on the proposal or add on, and sort of make a space for constructive discussion. And then that would require the governing body to review after there's been enough discussion to warrant a whole idea. And then either decide to implement it, approve it, explain how it's already being progressed, or reason for not pursuing it. And I think this is, if you'd ever have a look maybe at the government petition website, I think that's a very broad way of looking at it. But in our own network space, I think if we have a constructive space for ideas and proposals to be sent to the GB and questions to be asked for everyone to see, I think that's a really good way to improve transparency and accessibility.
Thank you. Igor?
Thank you very much, Lira, for your third question. Transparency and accountability, approachability, well, sorry, not accountability, approachability, they do, again, as I said before, strike the very heart of what I'm saying and what I've been doing. Because I think that in order to improve, and we all want to improve in some areas, personally, network-wise, EYP-wise, in every sense, we have to understand what can be better, right? That's why people want it. That's why we all want it. Honesty and ability to improve depend on it, right? True to ourselves, true to others. And this is exactly where I think added methods and means of communicating towards the governing body matter. That's why I proposed a so-called Ask the GB system, which is a very simple thing. It would be a very simple form, could be anonymous if you want, where you could respectfully ask a question towards the entire governing body or a specific portfolio, and within a certain time limit, for example, a month, you would be able to answer. You as the governing body member, sorry to address this to Lira, that was a bit awkward, sorry. Anyway, the governing body member or the entire governing body would be able to answer. And I think that could also bring down the invisible barrier that at times exists between NC boards or just regular members and the governing body, because they feel a bit intimidated to contact the governing body, which I don't think is a nice thing. And let me tell you, as a trainer at the Summer Academy this year, a lot of people were apprehensive about it. I mean, I never personally felt it, but I think it's really important that we drill down on this message. So we're opening up another means of communication. It's an easy thing to do. It's an easy thing to have of a very neat spreadsheet-based overview of. So I think it's very doable. It's very easy. That's why this can be done during the very first meeting of the governing body. And this is why I'm giving this answer now. There are a lot of very different ways and means to reach this goal. I propose a number of solutions, but I think this one is very quickly implementable. And this is why I would prioritize it if given the opportunity. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Igor. Jean, the floor is yours.
All right, so I think there has been a lot of good ideas here, and I would like to add also mine. I think one thing is that of course we can implement as many platforms as we could or do communication, but I think something that is very important is to be, I mean, like the GB to be at the initiative of such direct discussions. So one thing that I will take into action if I get elected or try to put in place will be to build some kinds of like module space or discussion that could be implemented. For instance, in national trainings or General Assembly meeting, when we talk a lot about those kind of things, about governance, where members have also their say into the international mandate that they give the NC to. So I think letting the space for a GB member in those kind of area will be interesting if NCs are also interested too. And I think it also goes with my point of working all together within the national committees for a better understanding of the network. So that would be my point. Yeah, I try to sum up quickly.
Thank you very much, Jean. Now, we will be moving to the personalized questions for the GB candidates based on their manifestos. So I tried to come up with the questions that really, that your manifestos made very special for me. So you will have around 3 minutes per candidate to answer to the question. And let's start maybe this time with Igor. So Igor, you suggested creating need-based democratic clusters that are tailored for the national committees' needs, and to make sure that these clusters adapt over time and they are remaining relevant for the changing priorities. Can you please emphasize a little bit and give us details on how you would like to do that?
Thank you very much, Lira. I'll try to explain as much as I can in these few minutes because I've been quite involved in our cluster. and our cluster has been doing fairly well, at least when it comes to some sort of communications and initiatives, exchanging delegations, but also trainees at the training event. Shout out actually to EYP Serbia for inviting some Croatians to join their training event this December. So first and foremost, what we have to understand is that when it comes to clusters, you have to feel some sort of connection, and you have to have some sort of will. The big problem is that oftentimes there was lacking will on some part somewhere. I don't care who's at fault. What I care is that if you want to have a cluster, you get a cluster, and the governing body member who's assigned to you supports you. But that's the key word, supports you. So second of all, that brings me to exactly what I'm saying, needs-based as they wanted. So the basic rule is 3 NCs, right? 3 NCs, that's the minimum number that you would need per cluster that you would tell to the governing body. That's the second part of it. You would communicate. The governing body would reach out to you and say, hey, you were previously in this cluster. Do you have sort of anything you would like to bring? Because there are a number of issues and a number of backgrounds that are different, that are the same for some NCs. There could be a cluster, for example, and let's go to examples. This is third of all, of NCs who have employees. I understand that would be, for example, somewhere where France and Germany could work together more. That's an example. There could be still the same Balkan or Nordic clusters, of course. But the thing is that NCs do what they want to in terms of such cooperation, because oftentimes they express the wish, the will, the energy to do so, but they are not so informed about their clusters, or there's that one NC board that's not so into it. Well, look, what I want to do there is simply say, hey, we're going back to you. We want to listen to you, because we recognize, as you know, as the High School Musical goes, we're all in this together. So when it comes to being in this together, I think that's the best way to do it, right? It's the need basis, because the NC will say this is what we need or this is what we want, and the governing body will obey. Not because the NCs is the final say or the governing bodies is the final say, but because we work best when we work together, when we listen to each other. And I think that can work. You can also have something that I think Jean mentioned actually, in terms of need-based, if that's portfolio-based, that's entirely fine as well, right? And it's about, facilitating these exchanges. And that's fourth of all. Clusters serve to facilitate exchanges, to facilitate dialogue, right? So that things are peaceful, calm, and nice. So shout out goes to the entire cluster EYP Croatia is a part of. We were very happy and fortunate to have very nice meetings for quite some time now. And I think that would likely stay. But maybe for some other clusters, it would not. That's the key, right? The key is to go back to the people who actually take part in these clusters and have some sort of benefit out of it. That's it. From my side, in terms of the motivation, if you want more examples, I can give you more of them, but I don't want to give a ton of examples. What I rather want to is focus on the substance, on what matters, and I think this is the core of the idea. So thank you again.
Thank you very much, Igor. Perfect timing. Moving to Jean. Jean, you mentioned in your manifesto financial sustainability, and here I wanted to ask you to provide a little bit more details on how you would approach this diversification to support smaller and emerging national communities, given that the financial aspect is indeed very important for all of the national communities, and some might be struggling with them more than the others.
Okay, so I think this question is very important. Thank you for asking it, Lira. I think it's a big part of my manifesto indeed. I think that the best way to ensure all of that is first knowledge sharing. We've talked a lot here about clusters. I think that, for instance, having a deeper connections within people sharing the same portfolio in clusters would be interesting, especially here for people taking care of finances, treasurer, and all. I think a big step we could take on is around fundings that a lot of NCs can apply to. So for instance, Erasmus, even small NCs can apply for Erasmus. I don't have the perfect list of which country is and which is not eligible. I swear I will look into that if I get elected, of course. And unfortunately, we have a lot of disparities in the way that we approach those kind of finances, and it's really unfortunate. So for that, I would like to really foster an environment where we can all share, where NCs can all share their best practices regarding that. Another point is around maybe taking activities and the things that NCs, still big or smaller NCs, are doing into long-term projection in terms of their strategy, but also their finances. I think it's a big part of the strategy that national committees can have, because the more you move on in your NCs, the better opportunities you have for finances, and also the better opportunities you have to maintain those finances and have pluri-annual things that can occur thanks to that. So I think a big part is to accompany NC regarding the strategic aspects of the fundings of the event, to not only have them as an end, but also as a mean to grow for their organization. I think it will be all.
Thank you very much, Jan. And just as a side note for everyone joining and listening, finances is usually not the direct competence of the GB, but it is more on guiding and supporting the IO. So it's completely fine that you don't know directly all the names and all the countries, because nobody does unless you are an IO member.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jan. Now moving to Vedat. And you mentioned in your manifesto, as you also mentioned during the event, that the big part for you is welfare and the safe core team and how welfare policies work across the network. So are there any specific improvements that you would envision being made? And if you can give us some details of that.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for the question again. I want to stress how important welfare is to the network. I've been to way too many events where welfare was neglected, be it on a mental level, be it on a physical level, where people just don't get enough sleep or don't hydrate enough, etc., etc. So in that context, I think we need to start with baby steps, because these changes cannot be a big package of changes and then boom, and the network is fixed. That's not how it works. We need to start step by step by step and methodically identify the issues, identify the pain points, and then tackle them. One of the things which I think is a big issue in the network is that there lately has been quite a lot of mistrust in the safe core team. I think this is on an upwards trajectory now, meaning that it's getting better and better. But still, I think that the Safecore team and the complaints mechanism at the end of the day is the mechanism with which we bring issues to attention. And if the network doesn't trust this mechanism, if the network doesn't fully trust this body, then this body sadly cannot function to its full extent. One of the things which I already proposed was to, at every BNC meeting, have Safecore team updates delivered to the BNC. We saw this pilot at this BNC meeting, so 24/2, and we had the Safecore team deliver updates. This was done in a very good way. So in this context, it's a step in the right direction. What I would further improve is even more transparency of the Safecore team. There's already a lot of really good graphs, a lot of good guides on how to file a complaint, what a complaint is, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, it's the members who need to know how the Safecore team works. The people at the BNC usually already know. Every single BNC meeting, there's an onboarding to the BNC. There's an introduction to the BNC. There's a crash course at how the BNC works. So in that context, I think it's about bringing the Safecore team to the members in themselves. In that context, I think that national safe persons could get a more structured approach. National safe persons could be more structured, and should there be enough finances, also create more events for national safe persons. Yes, we already have the NSP training in Barcelona. Thank you very much to EYP Spain. But at the end of the day, something that we have to consider is that even NSPs, they change a lot. We have over 30 NCs in our network, and the elections are not streamlined and standardized over the whole network, meaning that we have constant changes. Maybe bi-monthly calls between national safe persons would be a step in the right direction. This can be facilitated by the GB. This can be encouraged by the GB, and this can be done by the GB. Further work on policy changes in order to make the Safecore team even more transparent can be done. And at the end of the day, I think, as I already stressed enough, it's about bringing international governance, and with that also safety and the Safecore team closer to the members. not to, I mean, also to BNC members, but at the end of the day, to the members, to the majority, to the people who do not only vote for the GB, to the people at the end of the day who attend most of the events. Because let's be realistic, the 40, 50 people who are at the BNC are not all the people who attend the events. It's about the members. One single event has more members than the whole BNC meeting. So bringing safety closer and more reliable to each and every member of the network would be one of my key steps and one of my key suggestions. Should I get into the GB, and even if I don't, it still would be a suggestion for the future GB, because I think safety is something that we shouldn't neglect. It's been neglected for quite a long time to some extent in our network, and I greatly appreciate all the work that the previous ISPs have done. I greatly appreciate the work that the Safecourt team has done and is still doing. But I think we can, again, all work together on the common goal of creating a safer, more inclusive network for everyone, because we're all on the same side. There's no competition. It's not the Safecourt team against members or against the GB or against the BNC. We're all part of the EYP network. We're all EYP. And in that context, we should just work together and work for an inclusive and safe network. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Daniel, the floor is yours.
I think I need the question.
Apologies. Where
No
it was
worries.
not the same question. So you proposed connecting EYP national committees with legislative bodies to give young people more space and platform for discussing policy making. So I wanted to know, how will you as a GB member work on that together with the national committees for them also to create this platform and support their members?
Thank you, Lira, for that, and thank you for asking this question, because it is a big part of my candidacy. I think the best way for the governing body to sort of support an initiative like this is to create the tools in order to facilitate it. But one thing I'd like to emphasize when it comes to this project is I don't think there's any part of it that can come to life without having a consultation first with all of the national committees, sort of see whether this approach will work for them, to what extent they would be willing or would like to develop it, and then try to analyze what are the key points where they need help from the governing body to sort of implement a project of this scale. But I think something that I touched upon even in the case of small NCs, which was a question in Discord, I think it's about sort of building like a toolkit, a youth advisory toolkit, if you'd like to call it that, which would have the best practices, all the templates needed, and volunteer networks that can assist national committees to sort of implement this type of project. And I think the governing body has sort of the position to establish relationships with more prominent youth organizations in different regions, being the international board of the EYP. And I think that could make things a lot easier for national committees. But in the end, I think it does come down to a gap analysis on what national committees would need in order to implement a project like this.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And now, dear GB candidates, will be moving to the very intriguing question, which is your preferences for portfolios. So if elected as governing body, do you have any portfolio preferences that you would ideally have and work for the next year? And let's start this question with Vedat.
Yeah, very straightforward. Is there a time limit? I guess it's a very binary question.
Yes. Let's go up to 2 minutes.
Yeah, in that context, I think something that we need to understand is that the portfolios are divided once the GB is elected. So I think I can give that, like, I can take part of my answer in that explanation for all members here, because my question is quite fast in that context. So what happens is the GB gets elected, and then at the meeting, the candidates divide the portfolios. There are a bunch of different portfolios, and the portfolios for which I personally see myself in is specifically, I think the number one portfolio for me would be international sessions in this context. because I feel that not only through traveling to different NCs in the capacity of presiding national sessions, but also through being on the helm of EYP Bosnia and Herzegovina for 2 years, and also being in the network for quite a long time. I think I have the tools to support national committees in bringing ISs to life. Lately, ISs have been a big discussion point, especially at BNC meetings. And for everyone who was at the previous BNC meeting, there was a lot of topics of debate on international sessions, etc., etc. So I again just want to emphasize how important it is for ISs to not be something scary, for ISs to not be something that's gonna destroy an NC financially for 20 years, or that an NC will close down or something like that. So in that context, I think it was already so at the BNC, I proposed mandating the governing body to revisit the criteria for green lighting an international session. So the next GB will have to do that either way. So in that context, I think my flow really goes very well into that in the context of supporting international sessions and understanding all the organizational pain points, also coming from a smaller NC, coming from an NC who always fights for funding. We're not eligible for Erasmus Plus, for example. So in that context, I do think I have quite a good perspective and quite a good support toolkit to support international sessions. Apart from that, obviously, it's an internal discussion that has to be made, and I'm very well aware that I might not get this portfolio, and I'm very well aware that I might have to adapt, and I'm completely fine with that at the end of the day. Thank you, and sorry for taking a bit long.
No worries. Thank you, Vedat. Ivor, you have 2 minutes. Let's go ahead.
2. Okay. So thank you again for asking this, Lira. As you very well know, and I think a lot of people know, as is clear by now, this is something that happens when all 6 elected governing body members sit down together and have a discussion. This is something I am very much accustomed to, because this is exactly the method, the approach that EYP Croatia has. This is also something I am very much in favor of, because I think that to divide portfolios and to divide roles and ownership, you have to have a good values-based judgment on who will contribute with what and what is going to be the vision we execute. The governing body is a board, is a team in the end, and it's important that we all agree on some common points, because the point is not that one person goes in one direction, another person goes in another direction. So my first commitment is actually to have these discussions. Preferably, I would like to have them even this year, that we maybe have a bit of team building or even better kind of fostering, not necessarily of team spirit, but of general respect and understanding of each other's working methods. I think that is key to any successful portfolio distribution. When it comes to preferences, second of all, I propose that we do a new portfolio, which would be actually separated from the international governance portfolio momentarily managed by Linda. Shout out to Linda. NC support portfolio. This portfolio to me is vital, not just because of accountability, democracy, transparency, and all of those values and principles I listed before. It is important because it's the very bedrock of our conversations and communications. I really want to reach out, give my hand to the NCs and say, hey, we are the governing body. Please don't feel let down. Please don't feel angry. Please always talk to us. We want to talk to you. And I think it goes from the 1st of January to the 31st of December of the entire 2-year term. That kind of conversation and that kind of portfolio management, I would get there. I won't talk about the plans. I don't have the time about that. That's my number one priority for sure. International governance itself, as the portfolio or whatever form it takes, I would be happy to do so. 7 BNC meetings in the bag, a lot of very different topics of debate, policy proposals. I've been there, I've done that, and I think I have the NC point of view as well there to perhaps even try to have a bit more of a relaxed approach there. In terms of other portfolios, I am flexible to the point, to the fact that I would not want to be chair, I would not want to be vice chair in my entire 2-year term. I think I can contribute better elsewhere. And at the very same time, I would not position myself as the ISP at any point in time, because I have never been an ESP, and I think that would be a vital thing to have in mind. Everything else, I am more than fine with compromising on, and I think it's very important for the sake of transparency that we communicate this to the members. And also, I realized they didn't tell my age. In my first question, I'm 21 for 2 more months. And yeah, I'm a master's student of law. I realized I didn't say that, so for the sake of transparency, I just wanted to clarify the record here. That's it. Thank you very much, as I said again.
Thank you very much, Igor, for a very full of content answer. And now let's move to Daniel.
Thank you, Lira. As well, building up on what Ivor and Vedat said, it does boil down to the composition of the GB when it meets and the skill division between each other. But I think a portfolio that I would be very, very happy to pursue would be that of strategic development, active citizenship, and alumni support. I think those are three things that I'm really, really passionate about. And I think starting from active citizenship, being part of the first active citizenship lab that happened back in 2021, I think was a super rewarding experience. If you ever have some time to have a look at the output that we created during that event, I think there are lots of initiatives and ideas that we can build on and implement with the network's consultation. And I think that also fits in with what I've said already about my plans in the governing body. When it comes to strategic development, I think I really want to focus on sustainable growth. And when we talk about that, sometimes it sounds like we're only talking about finances, but obviously it's down to a lot more other things, and it kind of works with all the other portfolios in the governing body to promote that sustainable growth. And then alumni support. Alumni are a super invaluable resource when it comes to mentorship, networking, sustaining EYP's community throughout generations. And I think that can sort of create the cycle of learning. And I think the governing bodies and the international office have done a really good job at the moment with that. And that is definitely something I want to contribute with. Yeah, thank you very much. I think that was exactly 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And John?
Yeah, I guess it was my turn now. I mean, I'm going to repeat in a way what my peers said here, but of course, for those who will get elected, there will be compromise to be made, and it's perfectly normal. I think all the portfolios are very interesting. Personally, I will be mostly interested in strategy and or capacity building educational program, as we call it. I would like to talk about portfolio and think as them as a thing that can be worked on by different people. Like, I mean, if someone has this portfolio, I believe in the mindset that there are common work that needs to be done between people. And if I get elected, I would like to bring that idea to the GB, that actually it's not like one person only doing this job, but people commonly working together with different perspective on their best area of expertise thanks to their portfolio. So yeah, this was something I really wanted to bring up.
Thank you very much, John. And now we'll move to the very last question, which is a short one. Any closing remarks that our dear candidates have, just for a minute and a half, to motivate people to vote for them? So this is the last chance to really summarize everything you believe in and everything that you want for your term in the GP. So let's start with them. Daniel.
Thank you. So I'd like to thank all of you and all the candidates and everyone who was involved in creating the town hall. I know this is not the finish, but since these are my closing remarks, I'll just give a brief thanks. I think at its core, my candidacy is about creating a stronger, inclusive, and building on a more sustainable network, and one which empowers young people in their lives, as the EYP has done for all of us throughout the years. I think you should vote for me if you agree with my ideas, but I think you should also vote for me if you don't, because I'll be the person who will hear you out, and whoever you are and whatever role you're taking, I think I'll always be open to hearing out everything you have to say, every point you have against and in favor, and something you want to build upon. I think that'll be something which I would be very happy to work with all of you. And I'm truly excited about what we can achieve together. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Moving to Igor.
Thank you, Lira. Sorry, what is the maximum amount of time?
1.5 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. So in terms of what I represent, yes, I represent some ideas that I came to terms with talking with a lot of very different people, a lot of very different EYPers. And this is my bottom line. I believe in you, in all of you. I believe in myself, in other candidates, in you, Lira, all of us, because I really do care about EYP. I'm really passionate about EYP. I saw how it made me feel more at ease at who I am, how it defined, the very personal aspects of my life as well. But it goes so much beyond that, right? It goes into our methodology, it goes into our working, it goes into our civility and the kind of network confidence that we have in each other and our systems. I want to support that confidence when it comes from members to members, but also members to the governing body, because it's about us together, yes, but it's about us improving together, building back better together, focusing on development from within where it matters the most. Whether it comes to the governing body doing some things more transparently, consulting with national committees more, whether it comes to the international sessions being talked about more. We have Discord. Why not use it to foster network confidence? We have so much gossip going on. Let's say that the buck stops there with gossip and harmful media and material being circulated. But the buck does not stop with this debate. The buck does not stop with disclosing remarks or the final question asked during the time. The buck should never stop. I am here. I'm going to listen. I have been listening, whether it's the Board of National Committees, the President's Summit, the Training Academy. I've attended these events. I understand. I think I understand. And if I don't, I have no problem saying is that I was wrong or that I did something wrong. And this is, I think, the very key of who I am and who I want to be as a governing body member. As an NC board member, I don't think I was different than them. Made mistakes, admitted them. I can admit them right now. Yes, absolutely. But I think that's the key to improving and a key to voting for whoever you vote for and whatever you expect of the governing body member. I understand I'm over the time, so very sorry for that. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Ivor, and thank you very much for your trust. And on that note, moving to Jean.
Well, actually, while everyone was speaking, I was telling myself, what am I going to tell? Because it's actually really not an easy exercise, if I can tell. Sorry. I would say that I will invite people to vote for me or not vote for me. It's their choice. It's perfectly fine and normal. I know that some of the ideas and some of the things that I can bring are sometimes not about like the common thing we could have in EYP, and it's okay. I know I come from a controversial NC. I know that too, but to be honest, I really don't care. And I want to use that as a strength, to be honest. And just say that I've been thinking of running those elections for the past 2 years now, and I'm really happy to do it now and to tell myself that I now have the confidence, thanks to the past experience that I had in EYP, to do it. And as I said and I stated in a thread on Discord, is that I think it's the same for most of us. No matter how many ideas we have while running, and we can say, oh yeah, I will put that in place, I will be that kind of person, we will not do half of the things that we say, and I think it's completely honest to say. So of course, if I get elected, I will make a mistake, but I think I will also be the person that will be driven by passion and the love of UAP, and that will definitely always try to make myself approachable, to make our network better, and we're all in this together. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Jean. And last but not least, of course, Vedat.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, I'm not gonna tell you vote for me or don't vote for me. It's your choice and it's the network's choice. And in that context, I think it's important to just understand what you want for the network. I believe that each and every candidate can bring something to the network, and that each and every candidate has a good manifesto, has a good approach, and has great ideas which can be implemented. In that context, something that I can say about myself is that I keep my promises. I stick to my work ethic, and in that context, if I say I'm gonna get something done, I get something done. Of course, this also comes with some risks, and those risks are that I'm never gonna promise to do something that I cannot fulfill. If I don't have the time, I'll communicate it clearly. If I'm not available at that certain moment, I'm gonna communicate it clearly. If I can devote 30 hours a week in that week, I'm gonna communicate it very clearly, and I'm as sure as hell gonna do that. So in that context, I'm very passionate about EYP. I've been in this network for quite a long time, I believe. I've seen its ups and downs. I've seen it crashing down during the COVID times with a lot of events being canceled. I've seen the golden age of pre-COVID times. I'm very happy to see that we're getting back to it. I'm very happy to see that the network started rebuilding. I'm very happy that we are more stable again. And in that context, I just want to work for the network. I still want to give back to the network. I want to still learn something. I want to be approachable. I want to lead conversations with people. I want to hear people out. And then at the end of the day, we're all in this together. We're all working for the common interest of the network. We're all working to make EYP a better space. So I truly hope we do. And in that context, just vote for who you think is the best candidate or candidates. And at the end of the day, no matter who gets elected, I'm very, very sure that they will work in the best interest of the network, that they'll devote their hearts to their ideas, and that they will make the network a better space. Yes.
Thank you very much. Perfectly summarizing the debate. Firstly, thank you to all the candidates for very fruitful discussion during the entire evening. And now we will be moving to the Q&A session because we already have 3 questions from the audience. And just to remind that we'll be ending the town hall around 8:15. So the first question is for all of the candidates, and the first question is about external funding. So do you have any concrete ideas for external funding for the IO or NC to work on to ensure the stability and, more importantly, the quality of flagship events? I will leave it up to you. Please raise your hands at this point if you all want to answer the question or if you have anything to add. So anyone who wants to start. Let's start with Vedat and then move to Daniel.
All right, because I couldn't find the option. Yeah, you study IT for 5 years and then you still don't know how to raise a hand on Zoom. I think, yeah, I think something that's very important to identify here is that we're a non-partisan organization, which means that we cannot take direct funding from certain political parties, et cetera, et cetera. So in that context, we need to do our research. We need to understand who our partners are, who our potential future partners are, and based on that, do an analysis of, in the first place, who can be our partner and who cannot be our partner. Following on that, I think, for example, the European Youth event that was held this year, this was also discussed during the BNC. I think the European Youth event.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jan. And the next question I will address to Daniel. It is regarding the IFs. So considering that IFs can be the stepping stones for the ISs and hold a lot of potential for both the network and national committees, do you think that the GB can or should play a role in increasing the presence of the IFs in the network?
Thank you, Lira, and thank you, Yoram, for the question. I do think that international forums are a great way for national committees to foster sort of that international exchange without having an international session. But I think the governing body should not directly be involved in influencing how many are organized over the network or the way they're organized. But I do think that what the governing body can do is help the growth of those national committees and help the development of the tools for each national committee to be able to organize a large-scale event. I think something that has been consistently said with all candidates is that we recognize the NC's autonomy and their role in their growth, and they know their capacities better than any governing body member will ever know them. But I think what we can do is we can give them the tools and help them build that growth.
Thank you, Daniel. Yes, Ivo.
Yes, if I may very quickly, I don't want to add on to the entire conversation, but I want to address specifically the number of delegates. The big problem with sustainability and approachability of NIS to any individual is not necessarily the NC quota, which can be quite stringent, especially for emerging NCs, but it's actually the cost of not just getting there, so travel costs, but also cost of participation, which are the fees. Already they are quite high. We talked about this a few times already at the Board of National Committees meetings. I think this is where we should put more of our thinking resources to see how can we increase the ability of individuals, EYP or selected delegates to attend these ISs. First, because so far it's quite an exclusive and elite club where you have to spend hundreds upon hundreds of euros. I remember my parents had to spend between 200 and 300 euros for me to go there in 2019. I can only imagine how difficult it is now with this inflation.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Igor. So we have two more great questions, and I will really encourage people who ask the questions to post the questions on Discord channel, because those are very interesting. The first is about the workload of the GP, and the second one is about the EYP strategy. So very worth discussing. So I do apologize for not having enough time to tackle all the questions, but I think those are really worth discussing on Discord, and of course many more that the members might have. And here, as we already agreed, we would stop the town hall, and I would really like to thank all four wonderful candidates, Daniel, Jean, Vedat, and Igor, for their time and dedication and willingness to put 2 years of life into governing body and supporting the network with everything. So, dear members, please continue asking questions on Discord. Our GB candidates will continue responding, and there you can have a constructive, respectful, and very nice discussion about everything that can be and should be potentially implemented. I wish all of you a very lovely evening, and I hope to see you all somewhere in Europe. And thank you very much for dedicating so much time to listening and asking questions.